yours, and we'll be undefeated. If you stick with me, then I will stick with you. If you can stick by me, then I can stick by you all the way through.
Welcome back to Her Rules Radio. This is Alexandra Jameson, your health and life coach, in your ears, in your pocket, in your car, wherever you're listening today. Thank you so much for being here. I know you've got a busy, full life, and you are looking for ways to easily shift your mindset and your actions so that you can live life by your own rules. And one of the things we focus here on Her Rules Radio is sexual health, and not just staying safe and feeling good in our bodies and our reproductive organs, but also, our attitude towards sex. Is our attitude towards sex and our sexuality healthy? And I'm super excited to introduce you to the founder of Body Bookworms. You are going to love this so much. It is a fabulous service where once a quarter you can order a box of goodies and brand new kind of like female approved erotica. You're just going to love this. We're going to talk about this and the importance of gifting yourself some, healthy sexual toys and erotica. It's going to be really fun. And I found it so timely and so ironic that as we're talking about sexual health and, we're going to be talking about all the different things, products you can use, why it's important for women to explore their sexuality, etc. There is some stuff going on in the news, folks, that really, really relates to this, but on a grand scale. So I don't know if you knew this, but I keep track of things like this. Abstinence-only sex education, long championed by social conservatives, is re-emerging as the preferred approach under the Trump administration. And it's a political era where there's increasing attention to the alleged past sexual activity of our president. Now, here's the deal. Social conservatives at the Department of Health and Human Services say the current White House is way more supportive of abstinence-only education than the Obama administration. And conservatives are super psyched about this. Kelly Markham, a government affairs legislative assistant at the Family Research Council, which is a super conservative Christian lobbying organization, told the news, we're definitely seeing a shift. We're really excited to see that this administration is giving some tools back to us to keep pushing that fight. So wait, what fight is this? Basically, the fight is to tell teenagers that abstinence is the only form of sex education that's appropriate. That's what they're saying. We're only going to teach teens that they should not have sex. We're not going to teach them anything else about the safest ways to do it, because if we tell them the safe ways to do it, then they're going to do it more. Well, let's look at reality. Let's look at facts. Abstinence-only sex education is a mirage. It doesn't work. Kids do it anyway. We are human. Okay? Abstinence-only sex education does not work. And what I find so ironic is that this is happening while the president is being called out by about 20 women who have said, I had an affair with him while he was married. Right after his wife, Melania, gave birth, I had an affair with him. Listen, I don't care about the affair. I really don't. But let's talk about hypocrisy here, okay? The affair was consensual with Stormy Daniels in particular. She said, this was consensual, but I am being silenced. So it sounded like it was very contractual, right? It was like she was exchanging sex to try to get access to being on one of Trump's TV programs. And that's fairly common. Sex has always, it has been contractual throughout history. I don't care about the affair. Although, let's talk about hypocrisy. Let's talk about the fact that Trump and his administration are currently saying sex education should only be teaching abstinence, whereas he has been having who knows how many affairs. I care about the payoff. I care about threats, whether physical or financial, I care about a sitting president using his powerful position to intimidate and ignore and shame and say that they're liars. These 20 women who have said he touched them or paid them off, groped them, and trying to shut them up. The president brought up these exact sexual allegations against Bill Clinton when debating Hillary to try to publicly shame her. So let's look at the lying, the hypocrisy that's here. I mean, I saw a woman on Facebook who was angrily denouncing Stormy Daniels for wearing a tight shirt during her interview with Anderson Cooper, called her a slut, said she didn't care if Trump was having sex with this woman. Who cares about a woman trying to take advantage of this man? She was trying to dehumanize Stormy Daniels. Well, what about the man who tried to pay her off and then silence her and threaten her with $1 million punishment for speaking up? Isn't that wrong? If she's wrong, he's wrong. So just look at the hypocrisy. Look at the double standard here. And remember, the truth is abstinence-only sex education doesn't work, and Trump himself isn't even doing this. Now, on today's show, we're going to be talking about an amazing, healthy, empowering service called Body Bookworms, which you will love. I absolutely adore it. I'm going to be posting pictures of it on my social media, so come check it out. And be sure to stay through all the way to the end. And up next, one of our amazing sponsors. You know, it is such an honor and a joy to be a podcaster. I grew up going down to the radio station at KBOO in Portland, Oregon every weekend with my mom. My mom had a radio show for 10 years about organic gardening when I was growing up. And when I learned about podcasting a few years ago and realized I could do it too, I realized it was like a dream come true for me. And one of the biggest events in podcasting is coming up for those of you that are either starting your own shows, you've been doing a little while, or you're thinking about starting your own podcast and putting your voice out into the world. Podcast Movement is the world's largest gathering of new and, like me, veteran podcasters or anyone looking to start their own show the right way. You can join over 2,000 other podcasters from around the world in Philadelphia this July 23rd through the 26th for 3 days of workshops, panels, parties, and lots of fun. The conference covers over 100 sessions on topics ranging from the technical aspects of setting up your equipment, the right audio production, etc., and even marketing and monetizing your current or your dream show in the future. Now, the expo hall is going to be huge. It's going to feature over 60 podcast service and equipment providers. So even if you're just in the market for a new microphone or you're trying to figure out where to host your podcast, anyone who matters in the game of podcasting will be there on site to help you figure it out. So if you want to join me and a lot of other amazing people at Podcast Movement, you can come for $50 off any level of registration. Just go to podcastmovement.com and enter rules at the checkout. You'll get $50 off. Come and join all the podcasters that you've always listened to, that you've wanted to hear from, learn so much, get started, kickstart your podcast the right way. So again, for $50 off any level of registration, visit podcastmovement.com and enter rules at checkout. See you there. Thank you so much for being here on Her Rules Radio. It's great to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited too.
Okay, so first off, did you read the V.C. Andrews books growing up, like Flowers in the Attic? I can't remember the names of the other series. Did you read those?
Yes, I read them. I'm probably not the only one, but I read them, I think, when I was in like 6th grade, way too young to be reading about all that sex and incest.
I know. I checked those books out from the library, from our school library. I was like, why is this?
You had them in your school?
Yes.
Wow.
I know. I'm like, they obviously did not read these before putting them on the shelves. But that was my first real introduction to erotica.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I read a lot of Harlequin novels
Me
and
too.
historical romances like Laverle Spencer, like those Scottish Highlands type of, rapey. Now I call them rapey romances, but that was the popular ones back then.
Yeah, they really were. I used to go to Goodwill and Salvation Army, and I would pick up all the Harlequin books for like 5 cents a piece, buy them secondhand. And it's amazing to me. I love hearing about women's first introduction to erotica. It became like this total secret guilty pleasure that I had. None of my friends knew that I read it. Now, my mom always read Anais Nin. She had all of her books. Did you read any of those?
I didn't discover her books until college, but I have to say, like, I read a lot of Harlequin and romance novels in middle school and high school, but the real erotica awakening for me was reading Anne Rice's The Sleeping Beauty Chronicles, and that was like real.
Yes.
Like it was all about the sex and the emotions, and there wasn't a love story. For me, like erotica is less about the love story, but more about the character's sexual journey.
Right.
And it just like opened up a whole new world for me.
Yeah. So what did any of your friends know that you were reading it? Did you like hide it from your parents? I'm just curious if that like kind of secretive vibe was true for you as well.
I totally hid it from my parents. They are immigrants. I'm first generation American. And we did not talk about sex at home. And this was my sex ed, right? Because the internet didn't exist back then. We had the female reproductive, like 1 hour lesson in school, whatever. But no one ever talked about sexuality and pleasure. And so I devoured all these books talking about female pleasure in any vague manner that I could find because I was so curious.
Me too. And honestly, I'm surprised that I turned out I consider myself to have a very healthy relationship to sex. And honestly, the fact that I started out with V.C. Andrews and Anne Rice and Harlequin, like it's shocking to me. I turned out as good as I did. But have you noticed that as well? I'm just curious, since you've created Body Bookworms, which I want to dive into, but what do you notice in talking with women or talking with your friends as you were creating this incredible product line? What is women's relationship to erotica and sex based on their early experiences?
Well, I think a lot of women fall into the same category as me, is we didn't have, and we weren't educated or no one talked to us about that pleasure was good and we should seek it out. And I think romance books give us that, no matter how taboo the topic like V.C. Andrews or how kink plays a role like in the Sleeping Beauty Chronicles, it's about female pleasure. Like they're allowed to ask for it. They're allowed to demand it and want it, even if it's, in the Sleeping Beauty Chronicles, it's BDSM and she's discovering her desires and it's okay. Right. And I think that's what we learn when we read romance is whether what happens if the book turns us on or we decide it's not for us, but it's a way to explore that.
Right. So just in case any of my listeners are very new to hearing an open discussion about kink, BDSM, like I want to talk about, because the box that you sent me from Body Bookworms, super awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be putting up so many pictures of this on Instagram, so people got to go over and check it out. So tell us what BDSM is, and when you talk about kink, what is that for people who might not know much about it?
Okay, there's different definitions of kink, but for me, it's any kind of sexual desire that is not considered, quote unquote, the acceptable norm, right? It could be anything, like people who get turned on by being tickled to, 50 Shades of Grey has popularized bondage and, sadomasochism. And that's what, people think of when they think of BDSM, being tied up, whipped. But there's so much more to that lifestyle than what you see in the movies and read in those books. But I think it's a good entry point for people.
Yeah, and for some people it really is a lifestyle, like so much of their life is about it. And for some people it's just something that they're curious about or they fantasize about. They don't ever necessarily enact those fantasies in real life, or it's something that they do, within the privacy of their own bedroom with another consenting partner, but it's not a lifestyle. So there's all different gradations of this, right? Like it's something you can think about or just read about, which is a perfect introduction to body bookworms. So I was so excited to hear about your company, and I learned about it because we're both members of the Women of Sex Tech, and you created body bookworms. I love the tagline, "Every woman deserves a happy ending." Tell us how you were inspired to create this line of products.
Sure. We're going to go back to 50 Shades of Grey, because I think that's really when reading romance and erotic romance, books with very explicit sex, became slightly more acceptable to the mainstream audience. I mean, romance has been around forever, and I had friends who read this book, and I've never read more than 50 pages of the first one. It's just not for me, but I understand why people like it. And after friends finished it, they would come to me and they would ask me, do you have any other books like this? Because I like what I'm reading. Or because they knew my background in direct sales, selling sexual products like sex toys, they would say like, Kim, what are Benoit balls? Explain how this is pleasurable. So I found myself in all these private conversations with friends, doing a little education, recommending products. And I thought, like, what a great way to help women explore their sexuality, using a romance novel as an entryway, right? Because we read for, like you were saying before, like to try out new things in our head, to see if it's something we want to try out in real life, right? Why not pick a book and then choose products around it to help them explore whatever sexual escapades happen in the book. So the one I sent you is the Hurts So Good box, and it's exploring kink. But more specifically, it has a crop, so it's about how pain is pleasure. And I think that, and I hope that I included things that are good for people who are introduced to this part, but then there's more things for people who are more intermediate to try out.
I love this. Yes, there is an adorable little, like really well-made black crop. It's got some leather, it's got some lace, it's got some ribbon, it's got this great corseting ribbon on the back. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a great design. And it's interesting because, people don't consider, or maybe they do, but one of the kinky things that people enjoy about sex is a little bit of pain. Like that's what kind of part of this whole box is about. Like there are different sensations that people like to experience that are sexually arousing to them. And for so many of us, we have a little bit of guilt or shame around that, right? Like you were talking about, tickling is a kink, spanking is a kink, like handcuffs, being tied up. There's so many fantasies that people have that they don't feel comfortable sharing or exploring because they think there's something wrong with them. What would you say to people who, feel shame or guilt about that kind of thing?
I think shame runs really deep, shame and guilt in the sexual pleasure, because there's so much in our society and media that speak against it, especially in this current political climate. Women aren't expected to have sexual agency, to do things that make them feel good. And I want to give people a chance to explore that in a safe place for them, right? They're getting this very discreet box. It comes in a plain brown package. So your male person doesn't have to know what's inside. So they can explore that in the comfort of their own home. And then hopefully we have a Facebook group where we talk about sex and romance books. So they can, if they want to explore more, we can help each other out and offer resources, educate, and just give them an outlet to talk about these things that maybe they didn't have anyone to talk to about because of the shame.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk about a couple of the other little goodies that were in this box. So there's this awesome card that gives you, it's like a little game where you can circle different things, like how do I want to feel? And it has this whole list of emotions or sensations, like I want to feel feminine or I want to feel masculine. I want to feel teased. I want to feel silly. I want to feel slutty. I want to feel powerful. All these different options. And then there's a second one. How do you want to be touched? Right? So I can see this card, and then it offers all these games and activities that you can kind of get. It helps you get clear about things that you might have fantasized about, but you might not have verbalized. And it gives you a great kind of fun way to explore what you want and how you want to explore that desire. So I can see this being such a great gift box for, someone with their partner to help them, push their boundaries a little bit, start to step into those fantasies that they might have shared with each other. What are some of the other boxes that you have put together besides this one, which I love, by the way?
Oh, well, first I want to say something about those cards, because for me, like, consent is very important. And I think that encouraging women to talk to their partner about what they want and how they want it is really important.
Absolutely.
And a lot of us aren't taught to ask for it. Yeah.
Right. We don't even have the vocabulary. It's so hard for us to express, to get the words out. We're worried about saying the wrong thing or saying something and then changing our mind, or what if our partner says something and that's not what we want, right? So this card is it's so sweet. Like it's decorated. It's got all these cute little illustrations on it. It really just makes it feel like friendly and fun.
Right, sex should be fun. That's always been my motto.
I'm with you 100%. Now there's also a deck of cards called 50 Positions of Bondage. All these sex position cards, which again I found so helpful. Like it just takes, honestly, it seems like it'll take the stress out of wanting to explore, wanting to go a level deeper with your desires. Have you gotten feedback from people who have purchased your boxes, and how do these products help them in their relationship and their sexuality?
They love it. Like I said, we actually have book club discussions based on each book in our Facebook group, and we talk about the issues that come up, and then I ask them like what products they like. Our last box, which is called the Nerd Love Box, so it's all about like super smart people, exploring sex, and it comes with a G-spot toy, and we had a great discussion about that in the group. One woman, said that it helped her, discover something new with her husband. So I try to push the boundaries a little bit, but not too much, because most of the women in our group are still exploring. I get a lot of private messages asking like where to start if they want to try a vibrator or a sex toy. So that's where we are. And I try to add, one of our past boxes had a cock ring, a C ring. And I think that was new for a lot of our subscribers. And I just like hearing people get so excited to try something new, and it's fun. Like the crop, I'm trying to pick products that are not intimidating and are packaged in ways that are friendly to women, right? There's no like half naked models on there. It's all about
right.
And not the male gaze.
Yes. Okay, so two things you just said. First, let's talk about what the male gaze is. Maybe not everybody here has read Naomi Wolf. So talk about what the male gaze is and how that normally impacts, women exploring their sexuality. Yeah.
So male gaze is basically almost everything we see in media right now. It's all things to attract the male eye. Women are dressed provocatively to attract them to, to buy a product, or to, we hear about like tech shows where they have a lot of scantily clad women. And I think that for us, if we're looking at, I remember when I was younger and I would walk into sex shops, not the nice ones that you see now, like that are geared towards women and couples, but like the ones that maybe you would find near a truck stop.
Yeah, and all the packaging old school ones like on 42nd Street. Right. We're not talking Babeland, which is like a clean, well lit place for sex toys.
Right. Like would I want to buy a vibrator with a woman with very large breasts and on the cover? I'm like, how is this marketing to me? And I think that the sex toy industry has come a long way in changing the packaging to make things more women friendly. And I look for those types of products when I put them in the box.
Right. And there's also a lot of products out there, everything from vibrators to lube, that products that are actually quite toxic. Like chemically. Is that something that you have focused on with the products in your Body Bookworms boxes?
It's funny because I was just thinking about this and I realized that I didn't focus on it on purpose, but it is important for me to find products that are body friendly and body safe. And I try my best. So like I personally love products made out of medical grade silicone because I just think it's so much nicer. It's like wearing silk as opposed to, I don't know, burlap. So that's products I try to
unless you're into burlap, those. We don't want to, we don't want to yuck on somebody's kink for burlap.
Right. You're right. But for me, that was really important to kind of educate people on like, here are some products that they're slightly, more pricey, but there's a reason for it. And once you try it, you understand why and why it's worth it.
Okay, so how do you choose the books that are included in Body Bookworms? Do you just have like stacks and stacks of erotica novels that you go through? The book that came in this box is Tara Sumi's The Flirtation. I didn't even know about this one.
I discovered Tara Sumi several years ago at a Book Expo America, and then we met up again at a romance writers conference. And she and I connected and we talked about the book. I read every book before it gets put into one of our quarterly boxes because I try to be very, I want to create an experience that encapsulates the themes from the book. So I do read the books. And I, like you said, I go through a lot of romance novels before saying, this is the one. Because not only, I want the story to have a woman who goes on a journey, has agency, and as well as there's scenes in the book that I can find products to fit the theme of it.
So what do you hope for the future of Body Bookworms? What is your, what's the real driving motivation, the future of this business?
I want to help women have lots of orgasms by providing them the education, the resources, and just a forum to talk about these things. Like, I don't know what conversations men have when they talk about sex, but I feel like we are not having enough conversations. Like, when you discover an ice cream flavor that you love, you tell all your girlfriends. So why can't we do the same thing with a vibrator or a lubricant?
I love it so much. Now I'm with you 110%. Why do you want women to have more orgasms?
Oh, we talked about shame earlier. A lot of women are not told or taught that it's okay for them to feel good during sex. So we don't ask for it, or masturbating is looked down upon as dirty and shameful. And we need to change that. Sexual pleasure feels good. There's so many health benefits. I'm sure you've discussed the health benefits, sexual pleasure. It's just part of who we are naturally, and we need to embrace it and take care of ourselves. It's, full mind, body, soul.
It's so true. And yes, we have covered the benefits of masturbation and orgasm, which are two different things, by the way. Masturbation does not always lead to orgasm. And the health benefits are numerous, but also the psychological benefits. As I'm sitting here, I'm looking at this really fun box of toys and a book and, different things to help me connect with my body. That's what this box really inspires. I'm like, ooh, like this gives me an opportunity to really connect with my body and pursue my pleasure in a new way. Some of it by myself, right? Like there's a mini bunny finger vibrator, which I think is hilarious and perfect because it's almost Easter. And I'm like, oh, like I'm going to use some of this with my husband, but I'm also going to use some of this by myself. And I was really lucky to be raised by a mom who was so supportive in my connection with my body. She was very open about her own experience. Even though there were times where I was like, Mom, when I was a teenager, but I'm so grateful now. And, I love that you are not only putting together these great boxes of goodies to help women connect with their bodies, but it is a book club. You've created a safe place for women to connect about these books. So what goes on in the book club? Where do women find that?
The book club is on Facebook. So if you search for Body Bookworms Insiders, you'll find it. And we choose a date for each box. The box comes out quarterly so that we can give people a chance to read through the book. And I actually take a lot of notes when I read it the first time around. And if you go to our Instagram on Body Bookworms, you'll see pictures of the books with like 50 posted flags in it, because I'm just taking notes about things that I want to talk, that I think are important that we discuss. And it's just fun. I mean, it's not just like education. We also have a lot of man candy in there. We talk about, who turns us on, and a fun game we're playing weekly in the group is called One Must Go, and I'll list, like last week was different places to have sex, and people, which of these 4 would you get rid of if you had to, and why? And so we're talking about like the benefits of having sex in different locations.
That's great. I love this so much. So again, I'm going to be posting some pictures on Instagram and in our Her Rules Radio crew on Facebook, and I will connect people with a link to your Facebook group. So where can people check out the next box that's coming out? Where can they get this?
Sure, it's bodybookworms.com, and our next box, the spring box, the theme is Sinful Treats.
Ooh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's
There'll
awesome.
be some naughty edibles and, lots of oral fun in this box.
I love that so much. Dan Kim, thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for creating what I think is a brilliant concept, the Body Bookworms box, filled with goodies, help you explore your sexuality, help you, push the edge a little bit in your relationship, or even just in your relationship with yourself. So thank you so much for being here on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Her Rules Radio. We are going to have a special survey going out in the next couple of weeks. We want to know about you. We want to know where you live, what you do, what you love about the show, and what you want more of. It's really going to help us connect with more and better podcast sponsors, because this baby costs some money to put out. We're also super excited that we're going to be broadcasting from The Wing, the female-only co-working space in downtown Brooklyn. Super excited to start working with them in their space. And if you love the show, do us a solid. Share the show with a friend. Go onto iTunes, leave a review, talk about how much you love the show. Would really help us out. It helps everyone find the show. And we'll be here back next week. Mwah!
Two sweet peas, and we'll be the seamlessly hot swept, and we'll be the great adventurers, and we'll be undefeated. If you stick with me, then I will stick with you. If you can stick by me, then I can stick